Hello, welcome again to Bible study in my basement. I'm Pastor Bill Hennessy, the pastor at North Presbyterian Church in Williamsville, New York. It is Friday, April 3rd, and looking forward to spending a little time with you as we look at the daily lectionary readings as they're found on the PCUSA website. If you go there, you can search for the daily lectionary readings and find them. It's a nice collection of readings today, especially today. These readings today are very rich. And so I've had a little trouble deciding which ones I want to focus on. But I decided to focus first on the gospel lesson, which is from the Gospel of Mark. And we've been following that gospel now for several days, and I think probably for most of the year that we would do that. So this is from the Gospel of Mark. It is chapter 10, verses 32 to 45. So I'll read that to you first, and then we can chat. They were on the road, going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. They were amazed, and those who followed were afraid. He took the 12 aside again and began to tell them what was to happen to him, saying, "See, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death. Then they will hand him over to the Gentiles. They will mock him and spit upon him and flog him and kill him. And after 3 days he will rise again." James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." So that's a really sort of dense passage. It's just packed with meaning and with material. And where do you begin, really? I mean, this is the third time in Mark's gospel that Jesus is explaining to his disciples what's about to happen to him, that he's going to be arrested, that he is going to be condemned, that he's going to be executed, and they just don't seem to understand. It's interesting how it begins with, the people are following him and they're amazed, but also afraid. So it's almost as if the people aside from those disciples, this inner circle of 12, they seem to understand that they are heading to a pretty rough end. and so are a little bit nervous about what's about to go down. Um, so Jesus again explains to them. This is again, like I say, the third time and the last time in Mark's gospel when Jesus will explain what's to happen to him. And still, the disciples don't get it. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, these were two of the first disciples in Mark's gospel to be called. They were the ones who were in the boat with their father, fishing. And they left all that behind to follow Jesus. They have a favor to ask. It's interesting, whenever your son or your daughter asks you, can you do me a favor? It's always smart to say, well, what do you have in mind? Don't ever agree to do something before you know what they're asking. And Jesus very wisely says, well, what do you want me to do for you? And they want to be, they want to have some I guess, share in Jesus' glory, Jesus' power. Let us sit on your left and your right hand when you come in your glory. They're still thinking about a sort of conqueror Messiah, right? They're still expecting that that Jesus is going to take over and become the ruler of everything, even though he just told them. He just said he is going to be killed. They seem to have no understanding of that at all. And he lays out a question to them, which is, I think, the question that we all are directed to ask. And it's the question, I think, that lies at the heart of Mark's gospel for the people to whom Mark is writing. Mark is writing his gospel for a community of which he is a part, and he's laying out this all-important question: can you drink the cup that I drink? Can you endure the baptism that I am to be baptized with? You see, Jesus is not saying, I'm going to do all this on your behalf, and you're going to be then free from having to. That's not what the message is here. Jesus is saying, I'm going to do this to show you the way, and you're going to have to walk it too. And that's a really powerful challenge. Can you drink the cup? They say they can. But do they really know? Do they really understand what is in store for Jesus? That's the question that I think we as modern Christians so easily forget. We forget that we are called to walk a particular path, and that is a path of sacrifice and humility, not a path of power and acquisition. We're called to walk a path that mirrors Jesus' walk. And it's hard. It's hard to stay with that. It is hard to continue to elevate that. Our country has a sort of unique innovation in Christian theology called the health and wealth gospel. This idea that for those who are spiritually whole, that they can expect great riches and great blessings, and that we should be always holding out for that. And if you are receiving that, then you certainly, that's what God wants for you to um, to have this great wealth. The wealth gospel is unique to the United States, and I think is really an aberration. It's twisting the message of Jesus. Jesus is not going on some victory march. He is entering the depths, and he is telling his disciples, those around him in his time and those around him today, to join him, to walk with him in the valleys, to stand with those who are oppressed, to walk alongside them, to identify with them the way he does. And I think it's all clear when he especially talks to the rest of the disciples. The Gentiles lord it over the people who are under them. They are tyrants. That's not who you're supposed to be. You are supposed to be servants of all. That's a hard job to take on. It's one that I think goes against the grain of everything our culture teaches is the appropriate way to live. But it is the gospel. It's the gospel. Like I said the other day, for most of us, the gospel is the good news is bad news before it's good news. That's not my observation, by the way. That's Frederick Buechner saying. But it is absolutely true. Because the good news lays bare the realities of our lives. And often those realities are opposed to who it is God calls us to be. And what God calls us to do is to give up, to relinquish, to let go. Maybe not just possessions, but also power, status. We have to let go of those things that we've allowed to define us and find meaning in a new way. We find meaning through servanthood, through humility. And it's hard. It is a hard way to live and a hard way to maintain. And that's why I think the community is so important. We need one another to walk this journey together. We need to lean on each other. We need to hold each other accountable. We need to find in each other examples of humble living. If you think about the people in your life who you admire, people who have taught you what it means to walk with God, my guess is most of those people are pretty humble people. People who have a real commitment to care for others. Take a moment and just think about those folks. Those folks who in their lives have embodied this path that Jesus is calling his disciples to walk. I'm sure we all have names we could offer. It's important to remember who they are and to pattern our lives in ways that reflect what we've learned through them. I suspect for most of us, we've learned far more from people who live lives of servanthood than from people who have lived lives of lording it over others and tyranny. That's what we're called to emulate. This is the life we're called to. Now, it's a hard life, and often it can leave us feeling alone. And I just wanted to share with you in these last several minutes another passage that's listed for today. And you know, when I first read it, I thought, oh man, this is the last thing I want to deal with. But then as I read it, I thought, well, maybe this is something I should also touch base with you about. So this is a psalm. This is Psalm 22. And the very beginning of it you will recognize as part of the story of the Passion. But it's a powerful, powerful psalm, and not easy to hear. But I invite you to listen, and I'll talk a bit about what it provides for us in our relationship with God and in our journey. So this is Psalm 22. Let me just scroll up to it here. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me, from the words of my groaning? O my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted. They trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people. All who see me mock at me. They make mouths at me. They shake their heads. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let him deliver. Let him rescue the one in whom he delights. Yet it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. Many bulls encircle me, strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a ravening and roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted within my breast. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death. For dogs are all around me. A company of evildoers encircles me. My hands and feet have shriveled. I can count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots. But you, O Lord, do not be far away. O my help, come quickly to my aid. Deliver my soul from the sword, life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion, from the horns of the wild oxen. You have rescued me. I will tell of your name to my brothers and sisters. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you offspring of Jacob, glorify him. Stand in awe of him, all you offspring of Israel. For he did not despise or abhor the affliction of the afflicted. He did not hide his face from me, but heard when I cried to him. From you comes my praise in the great congregation. My vows I will pay before those who fear him. The poor shall eat and be satisfied. Those who seek him shall praise the Lord. May your hearts live forever. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations shall worship before him. For dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. To him, indeed, shall all who sleep in the earth bow down. Before him shall bow all who go down to the dust, and I shall live for him. Posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord, and proclaim his deliverance to a people yet unborn, saying that he has done it. That is such a powerful psalm. And of course, we hear the opening words from Jesus' mouth on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? It is a lament, and psalms of lament are extremely important. The book of Psalms is filled with them, and there are different types of lament. Sometimes there's a lament to God about the people around the psalmist who are troubling them, and you hear part of some of that in this psalm. But there's also a type of lament to God against God, calling on God to live up to God's end of this relationship. You hear that too. My God, why have you forsaken me? Where have you been? And sometimes, we get told, especially among Christians, that kind of lament, that kind of complaint is off bounds. That we shouldn't complain to God about the things we're going through. And we certainly shouldn't blame God for the things that we're going through or call God to account. But the Psalms are filled with that. Walter Brueggemann, years ago, wrote an article called The Costly Loss of Lament. And he talks about how the Psalms have been used in this way. And he says that kind of lament, a lament to God against God, calling God to account, is a way of taking the covenant relationship we have with God seriously. It's saying that this is a real expectation. God has expectations of us. We also have expectations of God. And if we want to take that seriously, then from time to time we have to call God to account. You see, we have resources in our tradition that can help us on this journey that is often very hard. We're not left with nothing. We're not left with just to fend for ourselves. We have a rich tradition that allows us to enter into relationship with God that is intimate, that is dynamic, and that allows us to express our real hurt, our real sense of anger and pain and sadness. We can do that. God can shoulder that and invites us to share it. It's okay to find this journey at times overwhelming. It's okay to feel as if we are abandoned. We all feel that way from time to time. What's most important is that we share it with God and with one another. Share that sense of grief. Don't just carry it on your own. Jesus walks this journey on his own and struggles to convince and help his disciples understand what they're, sort of in for. But we're not alone. We have his example. We have his presence among us. And we have each other. Even now, even while we're separated, we have each other. We need to share this journey together. Drink the cup that Jesus drinks. Walk the path that he walks, and know that we are not abandoned in it. God continues to be with us. Posterity will serve him. Future generations will proclaim his deliverance, saying that he has done it. God has been with us at every step, even now, even while it feels overwhelming in the midst of a pandemic that has changed all our lives for a while. Hold on to that and keep walking the path Jesus calls us to walk, the path of sacrifice and humility, compassion and love. So I will not be posting a Bible study tomorrow, but we'll do that again on Monday. On Sunday, you can join North for worship. At 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, I will do a live stream from the sanctuary at North for about 15 minutes on Facebook. So if you want to join us for that, I hope you will. And then our Palm Sunday service can be found on YouTube. And with that service, you'll get to have some, in addition to the sermon and some other and prayers, some wonderful music. Some of it prepared by Marlene Harrington, who is our church music director. And then also a montage of pictures that we have collected from folks in the congregation of what they're doing while on quarantine. That has been set to music by Kurt Ebsary. So I hope you enjoy that as well. So have a good weekend, and I look forward to joining you again on Monday. Be well.